All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Unpredictable Pipeline. In this series, we're talking to CMOs who are navigating the waters of 2020 and leading their teams, leading their companies, leading, in many cases, their families and their industries, all through the headwinds that have been throughout this year. And with us today, very excited to have Leslie Leach, the CMO of Hearsay Systems, live from a rental house that you said is everything. Basically, everything is green vegetable themed around you.
Every last bit of it.
I was joking about my grandma's coral bathroom, where it was like behind you, at least there's two tones. And my grandma's blue bathroom, the coral bathroom, it was all coral all the time. But that's not why we're here. Let's talk about your unpredictable pipeline. So you joined Hearsay in January, and I think like the rest of us, we're like, this is going to be a good year. We got lots of plans going. Halloween's on a Saturday. We got all these great things lined up. And then, then March happened. So maybe just start with just introduce yourself, what Hearsay does, and what it was like to sort of be on the job for a few weeks before everything kind of shifted.
Sure. So my name is Leslie Leach, and I have, as Matt mentioned, I've been with Hearsay since the beginning of the year and had a few months of normalcy. But what we do at Hearsay is provide compliant digital communication tools for financial services. So this means social media, compliant texting, local advisor websites, all in a way that are compliant with the regulations that financial services companies are responsible for supervising all of these communications and for capturing them and so forth. So that is what we do. So when the pandemic hit, there was a lot of need for more emphasis on those digital communication channels because many of the regular channels, if you will, weren't available. So, right after I had a little bit of time to get up and running and get up to speed, we were in this new sort of accelerated period of activity.
So sometimes, when markets shift, and it can happen for a variety of reasons. There's a need shift, like in terms of what people need out of a product, but there's also there's a product shift and a need shift, I guess is the way I'm trying to say this. And when you think about like going to the customer first, what were you able to notice from what the customers were looking for, and what kind of lessons did that have in terms of what you observed, what you were looking for, that can help people sort of just stay customer centric on a regular basis as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was so much upheaval for our customers in terms of just their operating and their business continuity, but also the financial markets and the tumultuous nature of what was happening there, which think of if you're a financial advisor, all of a sudden, all of your clients are nervous and their worlds are changing around them, and they have an incredible higher need to work with you and speak to you and talk through some of the things that are on their minds. So we just saw this huge increase in demand for our clients and what they offered. And so they're trying to keep up with it. They're trying to be proactive and with one hand tied behind their backs, essentially. And so what we found was, they had these additional opportunities to serve their clients better and to really help people when it mattered with financial advice and the things that they provide. And you saw a lot of them doing really interesting and generous things with forgiving payments, or in the case of some of our insurance customers, they were returning premiums with less driving and so forth. So they were taking all kinds of actions to address the macro situation. But on that one-to-one basis, what we saw was they were just looking at ways, gosh, how can we help our financial advisors do what they need to do and get through this? And from a marketing perspective, what we saw was, they needed guidance and advice. They were looking for, prescriptive ideas and what should we be doing? Tell us, what should we be doing? How can we support our advisors? And so we had a lot of conversations and did a bunch of outreach right away, and gathered up those best practices, and we found certain things made a huge difference. Financial advisors reaching out proactively before they heard from clients, they literally couldn't keep up with the calls. So if they could get in front of them and, say, I'm here to speak with you when you need it, that tended to kind of head off some of the urgent things coming into them. We found that corporate could really support the advisors by providing frequent market information that they could share via social media, so that they were sort of taking care of that piece of it. Because one of the things we saw was people just wanted to hear from their financial advisor more frequently. Right. And then we found, without being able to meet face to face, and when you're trying to establish relationships and build trust, we found people really appreciating the personal aspects of whether it was social posting. For example, when advisors would share their work from home situations and sort of the chaos going on around them, people really gravitated toward those types of content because they could relate to it. And it was really a trust building and a human relationship building opportunity, of which that was something that was difficult to have in this, and still is.
Yeah. Well, and I think, if we look at things we could do in the old world and figure out, at least for the next, foreseeable future, how we can replicate that in a virtual environment and all digital environment, it's, in many cases, it was the channel that we lost, not necessarily the value. So getting in front of your customers on a face-to-face basis, we missed that, but it was what was it about that interaction that was really interesting? And I know you guys have been doing like a common play for marketing and the organization overall has been workshops, right? And so, how do you take that workshop and scale it in a virtual environment? How do you take a workshop that maybe was more of a marketing play and convert it into more of a sales play, knowing that there are certain factors and variables that are gone, but there's still a core value exchange that still is there?
Absolutely. And I think the idea of workshops, and we spoke about this, really comes back to being a vertically focused software company. And in that environment, customer success is king, because much of your new business is coming from your install base, and perhaps in different lines of business or the same. And so much of our marketing activity in that environment needs to go towards making our existing customers more successful. And so what I call what we do at Hearsay is extreme ABM. And this is, both how we develop new opportunities, but a key part of developing new opportunities in a vertically focused environment is making your customers more successful. They're basically one and the same. And so what that looks like from a workshop perspective is we'll take particular customer challenges, whether it's adoption of a particular tool, or calculating their ROI, or improving their content strategy for social media, for example. And we'll develop programs where our customer success managers can work with their clients to make them more successful. And we sort of create this selection of workshops that can be pulled off the shelf and, put into an account and worked on with their team to address their challenges. And that is the key to developing new opportunities for us. We have multiple tools that we connect through a platform. And if a company is very comfortable doing their compliant social media with us, then they're going to also put their trust in us to offer compliant texting to their advisors, which is another thing in 2020 that is in demand and just needed more. So it is definitely both a way of creating opportunities and making customers more successful, which really is one and the same.
Absolutely. Well, last question for you here, and we'll let you go. We're into November now as we record this, thinking about 2021 for sure. What are some lessons from this year that are really having a big impact on your planning and your strategy for 2021? And, when we ask this question, we get a lot of people say, well, I hadn't planned on doing this. I hadn't planned on trying this, but because we did and because it worked, it's going to be part of the playbook, at least for next year. Any good examples or advice you might have for other marketing leaders that are also struggling with their 2021 plan?
Absolutely. That's a great question. Trying to think of the best example. I think one of the things I really learned this year as we were sort of doing this, urgent best practices sharing that came with the beginning of the pandemic is that our clients really want us to challenge them and want us to help them envision what they can do and how they can empower, their financial advisors or their agents in the field. And I think that it is our job as marketers to challenge their thinking and to push the industry forward in doing things better so that they, we know what their objectives are and we know how we can help them get there. So let's push one another and challenge one another and do, and break new ground. And I think this year we were a little bit forced into that or pushed into that by circumstances when everyone was just forced to, people that were working on 4-year-long digital transformation projects were forced to accelerate them just a little. And, in that environment, of course, a lot of change occurs, but a lot of progress can occur as well. And so I think that's what I would take forward is to continue to challenge ourselves to push our clients forward and push the industry forward and look for new and better ways of doing things as we were sort of forced into this year, but maybe hopefully on a more voluntary and proactive way next year.
Yeah, well, and hopefully every year does not bring the kind of disruption that this year did. But I think, certainly keeping an eye on, what your customer's asking for, what they're talking about, what they're prioritizing, like that's just good common advice all throughout the entire journey. Well, Leslie Leach, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for sharing some of your insights and honest feedback on this year's Unpredictable Pipeline. Thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you next time.
Bye. Take care.